Hey everybody, it's me again. Today I want to talk about Mythic Plus. There's been a lot of videos getting out there, a lot of stuff on the forums about how to fix Mythic Plus and a lot of the problems that people are having. And I wanted to kind of throw my perspective out there, and I did so by just quickly making this little chart here. And so I'm gonna walk through this, and I wanted to do this mostly just to start a conversation. So please let me know in the comments where I went wrong here. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? If what you think should be changed, just your overall thoughts. Would love to hear from you guys. So what I did is I went up here and thought to myself, all right, what are the reasons to run Mythic Plus? So right off the bat, gear, right? We want gear. So we can get gear by doing Mythic Zeros. We can get gear by doing 2s and by doing 8s. Now after 8s, there's really no more reason to continue to do, let's say, I just kind of made these milestones up. So we have like plus 10, plus 12, title pushing, MDI, and then winning MDI is like the end of the scale, right? After a 10, there's really no reason to do a 12 if you're just worried about gear, okay? So let's keep that in mind. Next, I thought, okay, community, making friends, being in a guild, getting a push group together. You could do that anywhere. You could do that here. You can do that all the way down to here, okay? So we'll keep that in mind. Hobby. You just enjoy World of Warcraft, or you might be somebody that watches the MDI religiously and like follows Echo or any of these other teams that are currently playing in the MDI. And you could argue that any of these things could support this. If you're just someone that enjoys watching the NFL, you don't necessarily play football. You might go throw a football outside. You might play in a men's league. You might play it, you played in college, or you might play in the NFL because you love football, or you might not do any of it and you just love watching TV, right? Same thing kind of goes here. There are people that just like dungeons, and that's why they play WoW. And then there's some people that really like the MDI, and then there's some people only doing it for gear. So that's kind of what I mean by hobby here. All right, fun. This is another kind of suggestive or subjective rather section, because some people might not think any of this is fun. So at that point, I don't know why you're watching the video, but maybe you find Mythic Zeros fun, but the minute you start adding affixes in, you no longer find it fun. So you only find this fun. You might only find pursuing MDI and winning it fun. So you wouldn't find this fun. So basically, if you were watching this, you probably at some point on this spectrum here find Mythic Plus fun. And so identify where on the spectrum do you find it fun. Next, do you do Mythic Plus for clout? So obviously, doing a Mythic Zero might not give you the feeling of like, oh yeah, all the e-girls are going to love me if I do Mythic Zeros. You might think, I need to do a 12 before I'm, I don't know, respected. I need rank 1 title in order to have fun. Like these two can kind of go hand in hand here. I will only have fun if I get the fame of winning MDI by making the mandatory team and winning MDI. Okay? Some of you might just think clout is I have all my portals, and that's cool. Or maybe you're in a guild where no one does any Mythic Plus, and so a +2 makes you feel good in your guild because you have clout, for example. Okay, so you might not care about this at all, and that's also fine. There's going to be categories here, and there might be more than this, but just for this video, I just made 6, right? You might not care about clout at all, so we can also put that into the equation here. And then finally, this is probably going to be the least amount of people, but if you want to make money from doing Mythic Plus, you can't, I mean, in theory, you could stream or make YouTube content and in theory, technically make money. You know, you can make You know, if you're doing Mythic Zeros and you're making like funny videos or some shit, I don't know. Or maybe you're pushing for title on stream, or maybe you're on an MDI team and you stream. You can make money that way. You can make money by winning the MDI or placing the MDI. I mean, I don't think it's a lot of money, but technically it's money, right? So if you already like doing Mythic Plus and you want to make money, you can look at the spectrum and argue where you can make money here. All right. So if we're going to take this all into consideration, I want to look at this as a player. Okay, why do I do Mythic Plus? And then from there, we go down to this graph here. I made this spectrum. And essentially what I did was, if we're starting at 0 on this graph here, is I don't know what Mythic Plus is. I just started WoW, or I'm playing WoW casually. I'm a mount farmer. I don't even know what the fuck Mythic Plus is, okay? To go from that to running your first Mythic 0 and attaining some of the benefits of doing Mythic Plus, which is like, all right, if you only did Heroic, if you run a Mythic 0, you're going to get more gear, which might be fun for you, and it might create a new hobby in the game, and you might find community by hanging out with people. In order to run a Mythic 0, though, you have to break through a barrier, and the barrier here is pretty simple. You need to make a group or join one, okay? That's basically it. To run a Mythic 0, you just have to go in the group finder and either make a Mythic 0 group or join a group that's already running. Now, you could argue that at this point in the expansion or the season, running a Mythic 0 could be harder than running like a +7, for example, because almost no one's doing it. But just hear me out. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's week 2 of the season, Mythic Plus is out, you can do Mythic 0, you just make or join a group. If you can break through that, if you're willing to do this, you now get here. Yay, I have gear and I'm having fun and blah, 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 okay? Now you're thinking, all right, if I want to get more gear, have more fun, enjoy this hobby more, or find more friends, I want to do a +2 to, let's say, +7. All right? I now have to break through this barrier, which is I not only have to make or join a group, but I have to understand the basic mechanics of a +2, because now there's affixes. Now there's your mistakes are punished. You know, you might die if you stand in that swirly, if you don't understand the dispel in Stone Vault, or if you don't have a curse dispel in your group, basic mechanic here, or if you don't bring some kind of CC to stop one of the affixes, I can't say that word today, then you're not gonna be able to do this, right? But that's basically it. If you're willing to do that, then you can get the better gear, you would arguably have more fun, and these things obviously you could either take out or put in. Some of you might not find this more fun, so don't go over these barriers to get something that you don't even want. Okay, and that's gonna be the point of this thing. So let's say we want gear. To get better gear, I need to do an 8. That's when I start getting mythic gear, right? But in my vault, for example, I need to break through this wall. Now, I not only have to make or join a group and understand basic mechanics, I now need to time my +2, or time enough keys to have a Raider IO score or a Mythic Plus score if you don't even have the add-on. You need to get invited into groups, right? You can make or join a group, but in order to do that, you need to time keys. Now, if you're a DPS player that's not playing meta, you need also patience, because it might be difficult to get in an 8 if you play a survival hunter and you don't have any timed keys, right? So you can make a group, you know, you could argue a bunch of different things. You could join a guild. This is an optional thing, but you could join a guild that will, you know, doesn't care what you play, and you can get into a +8. But basically, the idea here is, if I'm currently doing a 2 and I want to do an 8, I have to do this. Now, if you are not willing to have patience or time keys or understand basic mechanics, then you're not going to have a very successful time doing an 8. Nothing that the Blizzard system or the designers are going to do to make the leap from here to here any easier unless you're willing to do this. Okay, so that's kind of like the thought process there. Now, if we're at the +8 territory, this is when things get a little bit different, right? We have 10s and 12s. You can argue that going from an 8 to a 10, you are technically getting better gear, because your vault slots are a little bit higher. You're kind of saving crests, but you might not care about that, right? So this might not, the barrier here that I'll talk about in a second, might not be worth it. You might not find this fun anymore. waiting for a queue, doing the time 10s, whatever, that might not be fun for you anymore. Okay, so you're not going to want to go over this barrier to get to here because fun doesn't exist. Your hobby, you don't give a shit about, let's say, portals or about MDI or timing keys or preparing for keys. So what's the point of breaking through this? And then finally, community, like if your guild doesn't run keys, or if you already have a friend group and you guys are happy with 8s, why go to a 10? Again, you don't want the portal, there's not really that much better gear, it is not more fun. So why even do this? Okay, and the barriers here are basically the same as before, but now we actually have to start preparing for the key. Like a plus 10 is going to be significantly harder than an 8. And again, ignore that where we are in the season. I understand that gearing can be different here, right? But in order to do a 10, I need to make or join a group. I need to understand most mechanics now, because if I don't understand all of them, I'm probably going to mess the key up, and then I won't time the key, which is required. I'm definitely going to have patience, because you might not time every 10. So if you want to time all these 10s for all your portals, you probably need to have patience. You probably would have a better time if you had a steady group or joined a guild. And then you need to prepare. You actually need to understand what the fuck's going on in the dungeon, right? And then we can do this. Now, at this point, going to here is when we can start actually getting, arguably, let's say, I can start introducing the concept of clout, because a 12 is significantly harder than a 10. And if we can time a 12, we're now getting into the territory of our rated IO score is getting pretty good. We definitely have all our portals at this point. We likely have a bunch of gear at this point. There is no reason to do this for gear, right? And this fun thing is completely subjective. You probably definitely want to make this a hobby if you're doing a 12 at this point. And then community, are you willing to endure the pug scene, or are you willing to find a group of people to play with, right? So in this barrier, this list is getting longer and longer here. We need to understand all mechanics. Again, you can argue this as well, but let's just say for simplicity's sake, you probably should know what the hell is going on, every little mechanic. Not only that, you probably need to have a really good understanding of what needs to be kicked, what mobs need to be prioed. If you're a healer, do you have, Spirit Link Totem ready? Do you have Ascendance ready? Or whatever it is, you need to be doing kicks. You definitely need to be timing keys to even just have a 12 to begin with. Definitely still need patience. Probably would be good if you join a guild. And now at this point, again, I can see your comment. You probably could argue that play meta maybe needs to be here. I really doubt that to get into an 8, you really need to play meta. And honestly, if you just join a fucking guild, it'd be easier. But you probably need to play a meta at this point to get into a 12. I don't think you need to play meta to time a 12. I don't think you need to play meta to get title. But I think if we're talking about the general population doing pug keys here to time a 12, you probably aren't going to get invited unless you play meta. And not only that, but you need to actually play well to time the keys, right? So we need to play meta. We need to understand our class. And then at this point, we, at the bare minimum, need to have basic communication, whether that's, sharing your route, using the ping system, preferably probably in Discord, but you could maybe say that I could pug and time all 12s with 0 comms, but then that brings me back to you probably need patience for that, because you're probably going to not time a lot of keys because of the lack of comms, and maybe not everyone in the group doing all of this, right? So not only do you need to likely do all of these things to break through this wall, but everyone else in your group also needs to do these things, or at least most of them, right? You can get carried, or you can carry to break through this with brute force, but it's going to be a lot easier to just jump over this wall if you do this, right? So now if we go from time to 12, we're going to make this big leap. Just bear with me. I understand there's a lot of gap here, but let's just make this simple. We're going to try to achieve title. Not get it, but try to achieve it. We need to break through this wall. Over here might be more clout for you. It might be fun. And then obviously, you probably need a group here, and then it's definitely your hobby at this point. So we need to not only make a group or join a group, understand mechanics, we need time keys, we definitely need patience. Joining a guild is optional, but probably would help. Play meta, play optimally. We definitely need comms at this point. And then also, it is possible, but to get title, you probably need to have a regular group of people that you're playing with, right? And that goes into the community piece. You found 4 other people willing to play with you, and that you have fun with, or at least don't go nonverbal with, and you can play. And not only that, but if you're going to get title, you probably need a lot of free time to basically do farm keys, not time keys. Make sure that you are playing at the time of the season where you are pushing, because obviously the closer we get to the end of the season, the more people are going to be pushing for title. All that stuff. You probably need this to break through this wall to get to title. These last two, I'm just going to combine all of this, but essentially if we want money, clout and all of this is kind of subjective, but objectively, if we want money, we probably need to be in this range. And then we start adding in things like having a regular group, having a lot of free time, practicing, which kind of plays in the time. You probably need to have times where you and your group are practicing keys, maybe getting on the PTR. If you're in the MDI, you're getting on like the tournament realm. And then if you're here, you need to be good at the game. So that requires more time, more practice, playing meta, or at least knowing your class really well to play optimally to get here. Okay, so we have our spectrum. What's my point? What's my point? I've been yapping for a while. What is the point of all this? What I'm trying to say is if you are complaining about the meta and you just want to do twos, it is very clear to me, at least to me, that you do not need to play meta, right, to do a two. So if you're complaining about the meta, if you're complaining about class tuning to do a two, I feel like you are talking about something that doesn't even apply to what you're doing, right? If you're doing a 12, class balance playing meta will likely matter to you. But if you're doing a 2, you could have 4 ret paladins and a fucking bear druid and still time at 2. Like, let's be real here. So this is not relevant. But on top of that, if you don't like Mythic Plus, why are you doing a 12? You're complaining about how hard it is to get into a 12, but are you even having fun anymore? Do you care about clout? And if you're not willing to do all this stuff to get the clout of a 12 and you're miserable, then why are you doing it? You could just be here, getting your gear, having fun with your friends, and you could do an 8. But because you want this, you're having to endure all of the bullshit that is in your way to get to this goal. And for some people, winning MDI or doing anything in life, making a lot of money, winning an NBA championship, whatever, right? These things might not all weigh equally. It might not be fun to lift weights, but you might need to do it to win a powerlifting competition. You might not like practicing to win the MDI, but you really like winning the MDI. But that's kind of the point of what I'm trying to get you guys to do here is which one of these do you actually care about and how much do you care about that thing? And are you willing to give up one of these for the other? Are you willing to give up fun for clout or for money? And if you don't care about clout or money and you exclusively care about gear, honestly, you could just be here. You don't care about portals. You don't care about clout. You just want gear. Mythic Plus is fine. Just do an 8. An 8 is easy. Now, quote unquote easy in this respect. If you're willing to join a guild, have patience, time keys, have basic mechanics. But what I feel often is that players that I'm seeing that are complaining about Mythic Plus want this, but they're not willing to do all of the stuff it takes to break through the walls in order to get here, right? When you are designing a game that has this spectrum to try to satisfy everyone that has all of the different desires here, you can't just not have these barriers and just allow everyone to be down here. Just like you can't, if you make the game of basketball, if you're the inventor of basketball, there is Michael Jordan and what's basketball, right? And you have all these steps here, but just because Michael Jordan exists doesn't mean it should be easy to go from what's basketball to Michael Jordan. You probably need a basketball hoop in your driveway, and you probably need to play a men's league, and then start practicing and working out, and then you make the G League, and then you are a backup in the NBA, then you start in the NBA, and then you win an NBA championship, and now you're Michael Jordan. But while you're doing that, you probably need to learn how to play basketball, practice, have patience, work out, etc. All right? Essentially, what I'm trying to say here is that I feel like a lot of the complaints in the community about Mythic Plus has very little, what you were complaining about has very little to do with, or is not as required as you might think to get to where you actually want to go. And if you think you want to come down or want to be, let's say, in the title range, but you don't like playing meta, then clearly the fun is outweighing the clout, and that is okay. There will always be a meta. In the NFL, right now, we're in a passing league, and they don't care if you like to run the football. You can try really hard to run the football and win, but right now, you need to throw the football. And you can be mad all you want at the NFL or at the sport of football or at the other teams that throwing the football is meta, but that does not change the fact that in order to break through this wall, you need to throw the football. That's my point. And I think by going through this, you might enjoy the game more because you don't give a shit what it takes to get it to the 12 or the title. And it doesn't matter to you that if your class is not meta, because what you want to do does not require it. And again, let me know in the comments. I could be completely wrong here. If you think playing meta is required just to do a 0, then then I think you could be correct here that these barriers are too big. But I really do feel like a lot of people think, I'm going to say it just to piss some people off. You think you do, but you don't. You think you want to time a 12, but you don't even have fun doing an 8. Why the fuck do you want to time a 12 when you don't like doing an 8? If you want to play Ret Paladin, or Survival Hunter, or Feral Druid, and you find it fun, and you want to do a 12, then you probably need to join a guild, get in comms, or make your own group and understand the mechanics and time keys and have patience if you want to do a 12. So, that's just my little rant. I really like Mythic Plus, but I definitely am right here. I enjoy Mythic Plus, but I do not find it fun pugging keys. So if I can make or join a group with friends in comms, preferably for me, this is where I'm going to live. If it requires me to pug, because maybe no one in my guild is playing right now, or maybe they're not online, I am not going to bash my head through this wall because I do not have the patience to do pug keys that, over and over again that fail. I don't necessarily care about playing super optimally or playing the meta build. I'm a Holy Paladin. That is not meta. Now you could argue, obviously, I think I can 12 a key as a Holy Paladin. But I don't want to do what it takes to have a 12. So I am not mad that I can't do this. Because I am not willing to do what it takes to get there, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's my rant for the day. Just yapping. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next time.